Hey, what's up? I think it's me again. My second video for the night. The stuff you hear right now is in the background is a band called Damzel. They were a Michigan-based band that lasted, I guess, about, I'm not too sure when they first formed. But I remember they used to, when I used to see them a lot back at the Studio Lounge in the Westland, Michigan area. Around that time, it was bassist, singer Lynn Holly, guitarist Cheryl Conlon, and drummer Carolyn McShane. They used to be known as Rock Candy back then. They would play their songs, and I did a couple covers. They used to perform almost every Sunday night over there. And me working late afternoons like I was at that time at the job I was at, I would definitely go out and check them out every Sunday. I guess if it's to say that I have a thing for female bands, or female guitarists. Remember, I had a massive crush on Ann and Nancy Wilson back in the day, years before that. Started with Baby Lestrange, which probably sometime I'll get to later on. Basically, later on, they decided to get another guitarist and become a quartet. Her name was Valerie Greer. And would later change the name to Damzel. D-A-M-Z-E-L. They would have performed there at the Studio Lounge, Token Lounge. A couple times they did a couple gigs at the Ritz. He also did a couple of gigs at a couple other places. There are a couple others which I wasn't able to go to because it was way far away. I think they did a couple, if I recall, in Flint, I believe. Flint, Michigan, if I remember. Yeah, it's been such a long time. Anyway, they were recorded their first and only album. Set up, get myself there. Gotta adjust my legs here. They went on. They were going to release that album, of course, the following year. Of course, they did a couple of gigs at this place in Marysville, Michigan, which, by the way, as you remember in my earlier videos I spoke about, was that place where I got my life threatened. I was harassed by those bastards who thought I was a drug dealer because of the way I was dressed. A couple weeks later after that happened, I found out when I went backstage, because they witnessed the whole thing, we talked about that, and I found out they got harassed by those same fuckers. For the same reason. They were called sluts, they were called whores. They vowed never to play that place again. I'm not going to even mention the place, because it's a dive, and I don't want to give that place any credit or any publicity. Anyways, they decided to go record their album. And right before the album's release, shit happens. Lynn Holly gets pregnant. She's unable to tour. The gals got this album that just came out. Let me adjust myself again. Oh, there we go. I was getting a cramp in my foot over here with the way I was positioned. Anyways, the gals, they needed to do a tour. You needed to get on the road. You got your first album out. You got to get on the road. You got to promote it. But your bassist and singer is pregnant. Now, the thing is this. It was Lynn Holly who came up with the name. It was hers. So, the rest of the gals contacted a lawyer and said, we got to get the name. We got to go on tour. In addition to that, Lynn was let go from the band because of some shit that came up at the last minute, I guess. Not just the pregnancy, but a couple of lies, a couple of debaucherous things that went on. I'm not really too sure what happened. So they contacted the lawyer, got rights to the name. Cheryl Conlon, the lead guitarist, decides to become the new vocalist, singing Lynn's parts and a couple other covers and originals, including one called Rock My Soul, which I didn't really care for that much. Meanwhile, Lynn is pissed off. She's threatening lawsuits. She's making threats here and there to the rest of the band for doing this behind her back. So, there you go. I don't know if the album did pretty well or whichever it was, but sadly, it was her only album. I know it got a couple of good reviews by the local press there, but sadly, that was it. So Damzel decided to dissolve, and not seen heard from again. This was in 1993, and at that time, the kind of style there was rock, which was in mid-'80s stuff there, like Vincent, like Vixen, was out of style. The Riot Girl gear thing was in full gear, like Courtney Love's Hole, Bikini Kill, all those bands, Babes in Toyland. Alternative was the main thing, and the style that Damzel was doing was El Passe. Got my little car behind me. I get when you do that. So, years later, when I joined MySpace, one of the first things I look for is all the bands that I listened to throughout the 90s, like Techno Animal, Godflesh, Beatles, Pink Floyd, Black Sabbath, Ozzy Osbourne, David Gilmour, Roger Waters, Mick Harris of Scorn Law and all the other broad projects, Bill Laswell, Ice-T. And also went for try to find Damzel. They had a MySpace page. Now, however, didn't you give them no updates on the ex-members. But I tried to find them on Facebook. Had no such luck, sadly. So if the ex-members of Damzel are out there watching this video, say, hey, I was your #1 fan. Hit me up on Facebook if you can, or Twitter. Any way you can. I miss you gals. I hope you gals are doing all right. I also want to mention that Lynn Holly, who's now Lynn Holly Walters, I guess she got married and added her new last name to her name. I guess she now lives in Flint, Michigan, I guess. She plays in another band, I guess, from what I understand as well. She was featured, one of the 2 female performers in this article about, balancing a rock and roll career and motherhood and wifehood as well. And there was another page, I guess it was GeoCities, I think it was, dedicated to Lynn Holly, showing her photos of her, meaning the members of Queensryche, showing photos of Damzel. Also other bands that she was in, like Rock Candy, of course, Legs Diamond, the Lynn Holly Band, Muse, Mansfield, all these other bands. So, like I said, Cheryl, Lynn, Carolyn, Valerie. I'd like to know where I could find you on Facebook so I can add you as friends, to find out how you gals are doing. And it would have been better if we had a good material of good follow-up record to Castle Walls, the name of the album that's on your playlist to right now. But sadly, you know, nothing we could really say no more. Just enjoy it while it was there. So that's it. I'm Dr. Earl. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, and leave some comments below if you can. I see you later. I do not want no more sad songs sung behind these castle walls.